The 308 Winchester. 308 remains one of the most popular cartridges even today. You're looking at our list of the 10 most popular rifle cartridges by Google search volume, by the number of chamberings and different rifles available right now, and ammo sales and everything else. 308 is just very near the top of the list. And there's good reasons. So before we dog on the 308, what does it do well? Well, one is, in general, it's a pretty accurate cartridge. Number two, it has reasonable recoil. Still, you know, it'll slug you a little bit in a lightweight platform, but it's very reasonable recoil. It's great at killing because it has a lot of frontal diameter, being a 308 caliber bullet. And it's pretty inexpensive to shoot. And so if those are the things that it does well, also it's available in AR-10 platforms, if those are the things that it does well, let's see if there are contenders that chip away at it. So the first couple that I'm going to talk about here are some that chip away at specific aspects of the 308. And then as we get down to the list, the last few I think are the ones that are the best wholesale replacements for the 308. Let's take numbers 9 and 10 at once. That is the 7PRC and the 300 Win Mag. Now, I'm going to talk about these at the same time because, you know, the more the time that I spend just staring at Excel sheets at the ballistics of these different things, they're the same thing. Ballistically, you can accomplish very close to the same thing as a 7PRC in a 300 Win Mag. Very, very close. There are nuances, but they both shooting about the same grain weights, about the same speeds, and about the same trajectories and wind drifts. So the 308, one reason that people pick it is because it's versatile on a lot of different game, including up to elk. And I think it's a fine elk cartridge. But I think these are more proper elk medicine. You know, if somebody tells me they're going on an elk hunt, get the dang 300 Win Mag. An elk is a very tough animal, and they live in tough environments. It's windy, the shots are long, sometimes cross canyon. You want every ballistic advantage you possibly have on an elk. And for that, these just, look at the numbers, they just perform better. Okay, we've chipped away at the elk aspect of it. Now let's talk about the AR aspect of it. One thing that people love about the old 308 is that it goes well into an AR-10 platform. In fact, I've got to think it's by far the most popular chambering in an AR-10. And a lot of people are hunting in with AR-10s as well. But today, tons of people are getting those ARs chambered in other cartridges because there are heavier hitting AR-15 cartridges like the 6-ARC and 6.5 Grendel that turn it into a proper deer rifle in the lighter weight AR-15 and generally cheaper AR-15 platform. And so the 308 being available in the AR, I think now we've made the AR-15 so much better with new loads that I think they give the 308 a run for its money in that aspect. Okay, now we go into more wholesale replacements for a 308. If I were to say, if you're buying a 308 for hunting, that's the goal of it, there's one I want to point you to. It's a little bit less available. That's where the 308 beats it. But in terms of ballistics and what it can accomplish, holy 280 Ackley, Batman. The 280 Ackley Improved is one of my favorites, has been for a long time. I used to own one, and I didn't love the Kimber Mountain Ascent rifle that I had. It went to this spaghetti noodle thin barrel that just made it really hard to train with. But I loved the cartridge. And so I am building one, and in fact, we're going to see it in just a couple weeks on this channel. Just waiting on a barrel for that build. The 280 Ackley is so much better as a versatile hunting cartridge. I think it's proper elk medicine because you're hitting with a lot more energy. You also get a lot more velocity and a lot better ballistics for, drop and wind drift, which is the environment that elk are in. It also, think about it this way. Your 308 going to 280 Ackley. You're only adding 3 foot-pounds of recoil energy. Just 3, not much. but this is 45% less wind drift than the 308. That is a compelling case, I think, to go to a 280 Ackley improved when we're talking about its hunting capability. But then another option that really, this cartridge should be a lot more popular today than it is. It's been a wildly successful cartridge for many, many decades. But lately I have not been seeing a ton of this cartridge on shelves in new rifles. And that's the 270 Winchester. 270 Winchester is a pretty good wholesale replacement for a 308. You're shooting in general bullets that are maybe 20 grains lighter depending on the load, but 200 feet per second faster than your 308. And given that it's still a 277 caliber, you still have great resistance to wind drift, great resistance to drop. And so if you do have the opportunity to stretch that rifle out at the range, then it really works very, very well. Plus it gives you a little bit of extended hunting capabilities if you're the shooter that can actually do that. 270, one of my favorite cartridges of all time. Now, one that I don't talk about as often, but a lot of people love, is the 30-06. 30-06 is going to take your 308 and just take it to the gym and make it work out a bit. 30-06 is shooting maybe 200 feet per second faster than your 308. And that's really the knock on the 308, is that it's just a little anemic for a 308 caliber. You know, you're only shooting like 2,700 feet per second. Sometimes slower than that, especially if you go into the shorter barreled 308s. And so with that lack, I mean, you're dropping under that 2,000 feet per second pretty quick when you only start at 2,650, 2,700 feet per second. And at that 2,000 feet per second is where a lot of bullets stop working nearly as well, and you don't get as much expansion from it. And so that's really a big problem with the 308 today, is it's not taking advantage of some of the longer range shooting that we can do because our rifles have gotten more accurate. We have range finders and so much else. So the 30-06 gives it some extended range, but admittedly at the expense of more recoil. What I would say about 30-06 is, if you're shooting grandpa's old rifle, a 30-06 can feel like an absolute mule kick to the shoulder. But that's in grandpa's old 30-06, you know, with that dried up stiff recoil pad on there that just clobbers you. If you're shooting a modern rifle that's, you know, got a little bit of mass to the stock and better stock lines with a good recoil pad, I mean, we happen to like the backstop recoil pad around here. I mean, you can make a 30-06 really shoot like a kitten, just no problem at all. Just depends what platform you put it in. 30-06 it's remarkable how different it can feel in different rifles. But now we get down to the last few. 3 cartridges that I would consider to be anything you can do with a 308, you could do with these cartridges a little bit better. Starting with the cartridge that many people say when this came out, the 308 should have just disappeared because it can do everything 308 can do, but better. That is the 7mm 08. What if we take the exact same case on the right, or this one, is the 308, and right next to it is the 7mm 08. You'll say they look absolutely identical because they are, except for the bullet. The bullet now necks down to a 7mm. So I put 2 loads here for the 308, a 165 grain and a 178, kind of showing off the different bullet weights that a 308 can handle. So you'll see at a recoil energy much lower, 12.9 foot-pounds versus 16 for a 308. So we've already lost 4 foot-pounds of recoil energy. That's significant. But we're only shooting, you know, bullets that are maybe 15 grains lighter, but we get to shoot them a little bit faster. And so in terms of the, you know, marginal on elk, you know, lightweight cartridges for elk, a 7mm 08 stands up just great with a 308. but it gives you a little bit better drop and drift and recoil than the 308. So 7mm 08 is really a fantastic cartridge. It just says, you know what, if this cartridge is just a little anemic in the 308 caliber, let's take it down to a 7. And I think that case really shines the best in the 7mm caliber. All right, next one. This is probably what most people would put on their list as #1 replacement for the 308. This one certainly gets the most talk as the 308 killer, and that is the 6.5 Creedmoor. 6.5 Creedmoor really attacks the 308 by saying the 308 is a light cartridge in the 308 caliber. What if we take that and apply it down to the 6.5mm? I mean, they're the same magnumness. You know, they're shooting about the same velocity, but just in lighter, thinner bullets in the 6.5mm caliber now. And what that does for you is it gets the recoil way down. So now, even these super lightweight rifles that everybody's making now just shoot great. I mean, it feels like whenever we're getting rifles in, if the manufacturer wants a cheat code and wants it to perform well in reviews, they're going to send it to us in 6.5 Creedmoor, because the 6.5 Creedmoors just shoot so well, which is really what the 308 has had to offer for a long time, is they're generally very accurate, that 308. And I think that's the reason, is it's about the recoil in the lightness of the rifle. And the 6.5 Creedmoor takes that even further. Plus, if we say the 308 is really, it's okay for elk, but maybe not the ideal, especially if we want to stretch out the range and have some good ballistics to do so. Well, and so that would say 308 is really better suited for deer and down. And if that's the case, then the 6.5 Creedmoor, well, I mean, it's going to kill every deer you shoot with it. I don't think 6.5 Creedmoor is marginal in any way for a deer. And so I think 6.5 Creedmoor could be incredible. Plus, I mean, the accuracy of it, I mean, you can tell when you look at competition. You know, there's always the new hotness cartridge in competition like PRS, but the 6.5 Creedmoor is still one of the very top cartridges in competition rifle shooting like PRS because it's incredible. And then my #1, if I were to say one cartridge to absolutely replace your 308 with, I would put up the 6.5 PRC. 6.5 PRC takes that Creedmoor and bumps it up a little bit more. I guess 6.5 Creedmoor is to 308 as 30-06 is to 6.5 PRC. Sounds like we're studying for the SATs, but it's just a little bit more than that 6.5 Creedmoor. So you're shooting generally high BC bullets, you're shooting them faster, you're doing it with the same or less recoil than your 308. It enables you to really stretch that rifle out when you want to just go shoot on the range and see what your rifle can do. The 6.5 PRC is fantastic for that. I might say that the 6.5 PRC is the most versatile cartridge in existence right now. I would put it in the same class as a 308 for hunting elk. It can be done, and again, you know, I don't think everybody needs to take a 300 drum to go hunt elk. My two boys both shot elk, whatever, a month ago, and they used a 6.5 PRC, which I would consider to be the same as a 308 in terms of its ability to kill an elk. You know, this one has more velocity and better ballistics to make sure we get it in the vitals, but the 308 adds that frontal diameter and a little bit more bullet weight that I think matters as well. And so I think 308 and 6.5 PRC are kind of on the same level in my mind for hunting elk. But it does so much else well, even better, because of its capabilities on the range. So, has the 308 been replaced? Well, you can never say anything as a wholesale replacement because it's inexpensive and so available. But I think the cartridges that are out today, especially that Creedmoor, that now has so much availability that really I might say the availability is quite a bit better than a 308 of 6.5 Creedmoor these days. And the ammo costs are really, really close. I would say 308 is a little bit cheaper to shoot than a 6.5 Creedmoor, depending on your load, but just barely. And I expect that to change over time because this actually has slightly more raw material, slightly more powder, slightly heavier bullet, thus more lead. And so, I mean, the price is just barely higher right now, 308 compared to 6.5 Creedmoor, and I think over time that's going to be erased entirely. So it's incredible to see what Cartridges are doing, but still a lot of respect to the 308. I enjoy shooting it. Thanks everybody for joining me in this video. See you in the next one.